What's up? Welcome back to Overtime Operators, the show where we talk about making money in sports. I'm John. I'm here with Casey, the Niners fan man at Niners fan man on YouTube, and Daps at Daps Sports on all the socials. We're going to get into this week's bets, gentlemen. Let's just kick it right off. Casey, we're going to kick it off with you. A quick recap on last week's bets. Was not your best week. You did win one bet in the $10 round. So the way we do this is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. You did win one bet in the $10 round. You had Browns -3 over the Jags. But then you did lose in your $20 round. You had the Texans over the Jets and beating the 3.5 point spreads. You had the Lions over the Bears in your $30 round. And you had the Eagles over the Cowboys. Eagles plus 3.5. And the Titans at Dolphins. You had the Dolphins with a -13 spread. So a slew of losses after that $10 round. Looking to redeem yourself this week. I think you're going to do it. I mean, there's only like one way that could be worse.
Yeah, I'll start off by just saying those were a bunch of bad beats in there, John. I agree. So I understand if you want to steer towards Daps over me this week. But in my $10 round, I think I have an okay one to get us going. Nice little feel-good bet for yours truly here. I got Niners at Cards. There's a 14-point spread. Niners are the favorites. But lately, I've been liking the strategy of just taking the huge favorite to cover the spread, because a lot of times it's like, I dare you to make a spread big enough. And we saw last night, for example, in the Dolphins game, they didn't cover in that instance, but they actually lost that game. I mean, and they almost did cover, which is crazy. I don't know if we want to get into that game, but that's an example of that could have easily covered, just like they have in the last, I think, 3 weeks before that as well. So give me the Niners over the Cards here, and 14 points. I don't care.
I like it. Niners rolling. They've been rolling, and they've been, not taking their foot off the gas till they score 30, 35 points. So I like it. Can the Cards put up 15? Probably not. Daps, what do you got in the $10 spot?
I'm going to go Bills -2.5 at home against the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys look great. I think they've won 5 in a row. Really strong win against the Eagles. I think we could talk about the Bills-Chiefs game for an hour if we start that up. So I'm not going to do that at the moment. But I think that the Bills and the Chiefs both kind of needed that win. The Bills definitely way more, though. So I think personally, this could be the start of the Bills going on a roll to make a playoff push. It's crazy that we're even talking about the Bills needing to make a playoff push to get the 7 or 6 seed.
Yep.
But as it stands right now, everybody's talking about the Chiefs losing. Guess what? If the playoffs started today, the Chiefs would play the Steelers at home. And I would be happy to be in the 3 spot playing. You don't know who at quarterback, and it doesn't matter. If Kenny Pickett plays, they have no chance against the Chiefs. And if Trubisky plays, they have no chance against the Chiefs. So I'm going to go Bills -2.5. I like the Bills to go on a little run at the end of the season and win a couple games. And the Cowboys always seem to lose when they're supposed to win.
The Cowboys just find a way to F things up. You know what I mean? Like everything could be going well for them, and they're like, guys, this is getting a little too serious. We need to lose some games here. A little too much pressure on us.
Talking about the 2 seed in the NFC now, right?
Talking about the 2 seed. Look, you know what? I rarely agree with Stephen A. Smith, but as he put it, this team has been making me a profit for the last 15 years. Every year he calls them to choke at some point, and every year they figure out a way. So hard for me to put much faith in the Cowboys. Admittedly, I'm low on the Cowboys generally, so there's my bias. But I like it. I like the Bills are in clutch time. Right. And so I got to kind of believe that they can be a clutch team. Casey, to the $20 round, the more confident bets. What do you like here?
Yeah, $20 round here. I would have loved to have put my Niners at 20, but this one felt too good to resist putting over that one. And I've got the under here in a particular game that I don't think there's going to be very many points scored at all. This is on the back of a pretty major injury. Chargers at Raiders. Big injury to Big Herbert, Big Herbs.
Herbie.
Yeah, he's not going to be playing. He's on IL now. So the Chargers, I don't know if they'll be able to operate without him I want to say the same way, but they haven't even been doing that good so far this season. They've been disappointing at best. And the Raiders, They're very inconsistent. This is another one of those, like, this is a crapshoot kind of game. Sure, this bet could miss, but if we're going to pick the under on some games, this one I like a lot. Under 34 points, quick math, that's 17 apiece.
Yeah.
I don't know that both teams can do that here. So under Chargers at Raiders, that's my $20 bet.
I like a divisional like matchup for that as well, right? Because they're sort of built for each other. The defenses are both more healthy, playing each other tough. So I hear you. I'm with you on it. Daps, before we get into your $20 bet, let's recap last week's bets for you. We recapped. We held Casey accountable. We're gonna hold you accountable. You had the Packers to beat the Giants with a 6.5 point spread. Packers lost the game, so you lost that one in your $10 slot. And then you went on a little winning streak in your $20 and $30 slots. You had Titans at Dolphins. You just took the over on that one, 46 points, over hit. Then you had Panthers at Saints. You like the Saints with a -5 spread. That one hit. Then back to a couple L's in the $40 and $50 slot. You had Texans -3.5 over the Jets. Texans lost the game. Don't know what's going on in Houston. Or honestly, don't know what's going on in New York. That's a better way to put it. What are the Jets doing? The Texans lost the game, so that one was an L. And then Bills Chiefs, you liked the over 48.5 points, did not hit on that one. So you ended up upside down about $50 last week, or about 33%. But again, I think overall right setup for the season, a little bit better than Casey last week. Now that we've done that, now that we got that out of the way, we held you accountable. What do you like in the $20 slot here?
I like the Broncos +5 against the Lions. I don't think anybody really puts any faith into the Broncos, and they've got Russell Wilson. They have a number of receivers, Mims, Judy, Sutton, and they have Javonte Williams, and even their backup running backs, P. Ryan and McLaughlin, have been pretty solid this year. I don't know if they're all healthy, but the Broncos have been winning games. Besides that 70-point, disaster against the Dolphins, they've been hot lately. The Lions look strong sometimes, but they also do not look good. They did not look good against the Packers. They did not look good against the Ravens. So a bad loss to the Bears this week. They beat the Bears 3 weeks ago, but the Bears were up 9 points with 3 minutes left, and Eberflus he gave the game back to them. He went 3 and out, didn't even try to get a first down. I watched it. So they really should have lost to the Bears twice. I don't think Goff can be relied upon, and I think that's their issue. Here's an interesting thing to throw out there. Justin Fields, if he gets booted out of Chicago, imagine Justin Fields on the Lions.
Yeah,
there's a couple teams
another NFC North team. Yeah, the Bears seem like they're coming around, and the Broncos. I like this one because the Lions are on a skid. The Broncos are kind of on the upswing. But
so I'll take the Broncos. I'll take the Broncos with the points. Listen, the Lions can still win by a field goal or 4 points, and I'd still cover. So I'm going to go with the Broncos in my $20 spot.
Yeah, and that's +5. You said
+5.
I like it. All right, $30 round. Into the mid-range. What do you like here, Casey?
All right, I got another spread bet here. Going back to my roots, I feel like that's what I've done the best on this season, so let's stick to it. Yeah. Let's throw last week out, right?
Yeah.
Daps, I think we can agree. Let's just throw that one out.
Yeah,
Ravens at Jags is the game I'm eyeing here. This is, again, a team in some quarterback trouble. Trevor Lawrence banged up a little bit, right? Like, I don't know what his status is going to be, but I don't really care. Again, I said it last week. I think that they're in this kind of like flux thing where if they play a good team, they're going to lose. And the Ravens are as good as it gets in the AFC. They're only favorites by 4 points here. I think this feels off. So the fact that I can get the Ravens to cover by a touchdown, that feels like a solid bet to me. They look to me like the best team in the AFC. I think we might have a Super Bowl preview when the Niners play the Ravens here. I think next week, right? So after the following week after this one coming up. So that could be a good game, but that's why I got the Ravens here in my $30 bet.
Yeah, -4 feels like a bit of a discount, right? And it's probably because they're in Jacksonville, but Ravens seem to just be getting it done. They've got one loss to the Browns in the last little bit here. But other than that, we're just straight wins all the way back and getting it done against every team they're supposed to get it done against, and even against some tough matchups as well. So I like it. $30 round to you, Daps.
Go Falcons -3 against the Panthers. Not necessarily because I like the Falcons. I think betting against the Panthers is pretty easy. They can't move the ball. Bryce Young can't seem to do anything, taking a lot of sacks. It's not even enjoyable to watch any of their games. They just can't move the ball at all. So again, I think this brand of football happens with the Jets. It happens with the Panthers. It happens with the Falcons, the Bears. There's a couple teams where just sling the ball. Who cares if you throw an interception? It's better for TV if you throw a couple touchdowns and you throw a couple interceptions. I don't want to watch this, run the ball twice, throw it on third down, and then punt it. And it's just like, what is my opinion on this is how does it help your team to slow play and not get any points as opposed to scoring and making turnovers equally? You know what I mean? Because I just feel like at minimum, you can put your quarterback in a position where he gets in the rhythm. If you play the slow game, he's not getting into rhythm, no chance. If you play the game where he plays a little loose, sure, maybe he throws a couple picks and he loses his rhythm, but he also has the potential to get into the zone for at least a couple quarters. And you never know what the momentum is big in an NFL game, right? Momentum is big. You can ride it. And when you don't even give yourself a chance to get any momentum, I don't get it.
You got to figure the Panthers are kind of in they're sort of in a nothing to lose situation, right? Why not? If you look at certainly how some teams play, so Seahawks come to mind, it's not a lot, but they're always there's a chance that we're going to do a big play, right? And so they're taking shots, calculated shots, but they're taking shots. And I'd like to see more of that from the Panthers, because you guys can't move the ball, you can't score touchdowns, you can't do anything. It is so boring. This is one of those bets that you put in and you don't watch the game. And you're like, we'll just see how it turns out, right? Falcons sneaky good. Some weeks they look like they're really balling. Some weeks look a little off. I like them as that line of if you're a good team, you should just be able to beat this team. If you're not a good team, they'll probably beat you, unless they just don't show up. But I hear you on the Panthers. Just take some shots, take some risks. Why not? What do you have to lose at this point? You've won one game. All right, let's move to the $40 round. What do you think here, Casey?
$40, John. I have 4 letters for you. Jets, Jets. That's not to say I think the Jets are going to win their matchup this week. I have the Jets at Dolphins.
You guys are just
matchup.
targeting the bad teams at this point. let's just target who sucks and bet against them.
Jets are coming off a pretty big win.
It's true.
That's what I did last week, and it backfired in the Texans.
Yeah, you just did it with the Panthers. Casey's trying to do it with the Jets now. But all right. Go ahead, Casey.
But this fits my narrative at least, right? So the Jets coming off of a big win, Miami coming off of the most embarrassing loss in the last few weeks of any team, I think. I think that makes it so that this is the tightest odds you'll ever get on this matchup. And I think it's an anomaly that we found ourselves at this intersection of Jets, Dolphins, 9-point spread. Remember, the Dolphins have been 14 double-digit spreads for the last 3 weeks. So 9 is what I saw. I'm sure you can find a juicier one out there if you really go diving for them. But this might get worse, might get better throughout the week. I don't know. But at 9 points, I like it. I'll take it. Probably a point swing either direction still. I don't care.
Where's your barrier? If somebody's watching this later, where's your barrier where you start to not like this spread? 12, 13?
If you're already in at 9, the thing is I guess over 14 is when I start going, okay, hold on. That's just how often does that even happen? Right. So I guess I would ride it probably up to 14. Then I start feeling a little bit weirder about it, I guess. But even then, the Dolphins are pissed. Okay. Mike McDaniel needs a win here. This was embarrassing. They can't have it. Tyreek Hill's going to be banged up, but they'll know that, right? They have him in a limited capacity. They had a couple of just boneheaded things. I mean, this last game was a anomaly. It was 1 in 700 and whatever. They've been showing that crazy odds. Teams that were up by 14 points at 3 minutes left in the game. I mean, we can't have it, and they need to come back and prove something against the Jets. The Jets don't have an answer. Zach Wilson is not the answer. We know this. So let's just play the probability here. Dolphins -9. That's my $40 bet.
$40 bet. I like it. All right, Daps, that's to you. $40.
I'm going to go Commanders, Rams over 49 in LA, indoor game. Commanders don't play D. Rams have been playing well. I know they caught the loss last week to a good Baltimore team, and they had an opportunity to win. The game went to overtime. The Rams have hung with the Ravens and the Niners in 2 games against really good teams, 10-win teams. So I like the Rams still as like a sneaky playoff team if they're healthy. Kyron Williams is back. He's an absolute monster. I think he's going to be he's already fantasy relevant this year, but he might be a 3rd or 4th round pick next year in drafts when really he should be like a 1st round pick. So I really like Puka Nacua. They got Cooper Kupp. If they're healthy going into the playoffs, look at the Rams as a potential. Listen, they're 2 years removed from the Super Bowl. They don't have the same D, but Sean McVay is a genius on offense, and that's why I'm going over 49.
The Rams have scored over 30 points in their last 3 games, and 2 of those were against the Browns and the Ravens. So Rams seem to be able to sling it around on offense. Commanders, like you said, not a great defensive team. Only way the narrative against this going over 49 is that the Rams just run away with it early and start running the ball. But you got to figure they want to score 30, 35 points at least. So can the Commanders come up with double digits at least? Maybe. All right, Casey. The big round, $50 round. What do you like here?
All right. Well, hopefully you guys are right about the Rams because I got Matthew Stafford as a pickup to save my my Justin Herbert led fantasy team going into the playoffs here.
Yeah.
Pretty gross having to pick a new QB there. But for my $50 round, I have the Falcons at Panthers. We already talked about this matchup a little bit. Daps had I believe you had the Falcons -3. Was that right?
Yeah. He liked the Falcons at -3.
Basically everything Dap said about that, I completely agree. I just see it a little bit different way. I want to take the under on the points because both teams kind of are pretty lackluster on offense. Mm-hmm. I see the game going to like the Falcons early because they're a little bit more consistent, albeit like grindy, like slow ball. Mm-hmm. As Daps points out, both teams kind of do this. So I don't think they can hit 35. No matter who gets in the lead, I think they're going to go immediately into slow the game down, run the ball mode. And the other team, even if they try to pass, which both teams have shown that they don't really want to, even when behind, even if they try to, they're not effective enough to like move the chains on a regular basis by passing. So I could just really see this being one of those gross games that we're seeing an increasing amount of as the season goes forward, these like low score, single digit type of games. Yeah. So 35 points, that's a pretty high bar in this match to me.
I have Drake London in fantasy, and I will say this about the Falcons. I'm guessing you guys don't put eyes on a lot of Falcons football. I don't blame you.
More than I want to.
Yeah. Any single down I watch of Atlanta Falcons is more than I want to. I've watched a little bit of Falcons football, and the Falcons are actually surprisingly exciting to watch because they're what I call matchers. They will match whatever the other team's doing, right? So examples being last week, they lost 29-25 to the Bucks. The week before, they beat the Jets 13-18. The week before, 24-15 to the Saints. That's a huge spread for them. Usually it's like within 5 points. So 23-25 to the Cardinals, 31-28 to the Vikings. They're matchers. They always kind of do what the other team does. So, if you're keying off the Panthers, we might see a Vikings-Raiders game here ending 3-0, which, well under. That will be a great under bet. I like that in the $50 spot. Daps, last bet, $50 round to you.
I'm going to go right back to what I bet last week, and that's the Chiefs over. So Chiefs-Patriots over 37.5, 11 points lower than the Bills over-under. I've seen over the last 4 weeks, we've seen a lot of Chiefs over-unders that are set lower than I've ever seen before. And I get it. The Chiefs are not scoring the way they have in the past 5 years, let's call it. But I don't know. It's one of those feelings where you go, this has to turn around at some point, and maybe it doesn't. But I don't think anyone's going to be surprised if this Chiefs starts scoring 35 points a game in the last 4 games of the year. And I also think that this is a moment throughout a season for any team where a call doesn't go your way or a team irritates you in some type of way, your opponent, where the team comes together, right? And this is that moment for the Chiefs where they all got angry together. They took a tough loss, but now they're going to start playing serious. Now there's going to be serious talks in the locker room about Kadarius Toney, where he's lining up. MBS drops, Toney drops, Sky Moore drops. We have the most drops in the league. Receivers, you really have to, play for this team now. And maybe they get motivated, maybe they don't, but Mahomes is always going to put you in a position to win. We'll see if the Pats score 14 points. I think this is going to be a pretty easy over to hit.
The Pats feel like a good back on track game for them. And I mean, in this little losing streak they've been on, I would say there's been other ones that feel like good back on track games for them. So, I guess never say that, but the Pats feel like a good, they should definitely win this game. Let's get back on track here. Kansas City. What did you say you have the over at? What is the point?
I have it at 37.5. And just to let everybody know, the last 4 games for the Chiefs this year are New England, Las Vegas, Cincinnati, and the Chargers.
You only have to score 3 points to beat the Raiders. So,
this is super interesting too. The last 4 teams that they're facing, the starting quarterback to start the season is not the quarterback. So they're playing most likely Zappy this week, back up. Raiders, O'Connell, back up. Cincinnati, Browning, back up. And now Herbert just went down. So they'll play Easton Stick or whatever his name is. So it looks like they're gonna
be able to win out. They should be able to win out.
Yep.
Cool. That wraps up the betting, boys. So now we are on to the fun portion, what I like to call the fun portion of the show. Not that betting's not fun, but this is more fun because this is where we get to play a little round of heat check. I like to tie it in to some fantasy stats or player props just so we can kind of benchmark some stuff for people. I got a doozy for you guys this week. We are going to play heat check, and the category is rushing touchdowns over the last 3 seasons, not including this season. So the 2020 season, the 2021 season, 2022 season, total rushing touchdowns is the category. I believe Casey is still behind 2-1. So Casey, to you, do you want to go first or second?
I think I've had better luck with Daps going first, so I'm gonna keep going on that one.
Okay.
Take every advantage I can get.
All right, Daps. First round question. Lamar Jackson has had 12 total rushing touchdowns in the last 3 seasons. So 12 overall 3 seasons. Has Christian McCaffrey had more or less than that?
12 total rushing touchdowns?
Yes.
Oh man, I guess this
just
comes
rushing. So Christian McCaffrey's receiving touchdowns do not count. Rushing only.
Right. And he was obviously injured probably 1 full year or close to it.
Right.
3 years. I have to go over.
Got to go over. All right. So Lamar Jackson had 12 total rushing touchdowns in the last 3 seasons. Dap says Christian McCaffrey had more. Christian McCaffrey had 14 total rushing touchdowns in the last 3 seasons. Moore was correct. Daps is on the board with 1 point. Casey, to you now with your boy, CMC. Christian McCaffrey had 14 total rushing touchdowns in the last 3 seasons. Did Jamal Williams have more or less?
Okay, this is one of those weird sounding things, but I know the answer to this one. Jamal Williams, absolutely insane last year for the Lions, and that alone I think does it. But if not, it's super close. He would only need a couple more, but I think he did it just last year. So I believe it's Jamal Williams. Sounds weird. Don't clip this.
Yeah. No, I knew you'd go second, so I put this one here. Casey says Christian McCaffrey had 14 total rushing touchdowns last season. Casey says Jamal Williams had more because he doesn't think Christian McCaffrey is very good. The answer is Jamal Williams did have more. He had 20 total rushing touchdowns in the last 3 seasons, and you are correct, Casey. Jamal Williams had 17 in one single season, more than Christian McCaffrey had. To be fair, CMC does catch more balls, but Jamal Williams, purely rushing touchdowns. No receiving touchdowns for that guy. All right, Daps, back to you. Jamal Williams, 20 total rushing touchdowns in the last 3 seasons. Did his current teammate, Alvin Kamara, have more or less in the last 3 seasons?
Kamara.
Do.
I got to go more also.
Remember, it's only rushing. None of this catches.
Yeah, I still got to go more.
You still got to go more. All right. Jamal Williams had 20 total rushing touchdowns in the last 3 seasons. Dap says Alvin Kamara had more. Alvin Kamara had 22 total rushing touchdowns in the last 3 seasons. More is correct. Daps is up 2-1 halfway through the second round. Now it's to you, Casey. Alvin Kamara had 22 total rushing touchdowns in the last 3 seasons. Did Jalen Hurts have more or less?
22 in the last 3 seasons for Kamara. Hurts, man, lots of rushing touchdowns for Hurts.
He does get pushed
and
in a
you
lot.
There's a lot. They're pretty good at getting 1 or 2 yards, as we know. Man, this one's a total feel kind of one. Let's see, Hurts, 3 years. That should be all Hurts, right? Hurts was starter for all 3 years.
Yep,
Not this season.
You're getting basically his first season. Right, he started all the way till now. Yep.
I'm just gonna ride my gut here and go with Hurts.
Okay. Alvin Kamara had 22 total rushing touchdowns in the last 3 seasons. Jalen Hurts. Casey says Jalen Hurts had more. Jalen Hurts had 26 total rushing touchdowns in the last 3 seasons. It's tied up, boys. 2-2 through the second round. This one's going to come down to it. Daps, back to you. Jalen Hurts had 26 total rushing touchdowns in the last 3 seasons. This is not who I meant to put here. Jalen Hurts. Okay, here we go. Jalen Hurts had 26 total rushing touchdowns in the last 3 seasons. Did Nick Chubb have more or less?
26 rushing touchdowns?
Yes. Nick Chubb, more or less. 3 seasons.
I'm gonna go less.
Okay.
Only because I think Chubb got hurt.
Jalen Hurts had 26 total rushing touchdowns in the last 3 seasons. Dap says Nick Chubb had fewer than that. Nick Chubb had 32 total rushing tutties in the last 3 seasons. So that's a miss for Daps, which means the door is open for you, Casey.
Wow.
Nick Chubb had 32 total rushing touchdowns in the last 3 seasons. Did Dalvin Cook have more or less? We're getting like the best part of these 2 guys' careers.
Yeah, Dalvin Cook, known like all around back, like receiving back as well, though. A lot of Kirk Cousins checks downs for touchdowns, I would think. But also they felt confident in him as a runner. Oof, this one's pretty tough. That Nick Chubb number is pretty high. I'm leaning less here. I think that in that window, Nick Chubb might have actually been healthy, or obviously mostly healthy, and Dalvin Cook would have had similar injuries probably in that time. I'm gonna stay with less. I think Dalvin probably had too many receiving touchdowns mixed in there.
Okay. So to finish out the third round, Nick Chubb had 32 total rushing touchdowns in the last 3 seasons. Casey says Dalvin Cook had less. Dalvin Cook had 30 total rushing touchdowns in the last 3 seasons. That means Casey's up 3-2 through 3 rounds. You got to get this one, Daps, and then Casey's got to miss it. Daps, to you. Dalvin Cook had 30 total rushing touchdowns in the last 3 seasons. That's 10 a season. Did Ezekiel Elliott have more or less than that? Another guy we're getting the best part of his career.
I'm going to say Zeke had more.
Straight to it. You feel confident. Feel good. All right.
Well, I mean, the only reason I'm saying that is Zeke primarily is like Chubb. He's a runner, right? He's not a Kamara. He's not a Christian. He doesn't catch as many balls. So that's where my mind went with it.
Dalvin Cook had 30 total rushing touchdowns in the last 3 seasons. To stay alive, Dap says Ezekiel Elliott had more. Ezekiel Elliott had 28 total rushing touchdowns in the last 3 seasons.
Wow.
Which means you missed it. Casey has the win in hand here, but I will give him the last question. Ezekiel Elliott and Dalvin Cook are both guys who are sort of, in terms of rushing touchdowns, this particular stat, always the bridesmaids for the last 3 seasons, always the bridesmaid, never the brides type guys. Like, they're always in the top 4 or 5, but never 1. So yeah, those two, that might be like the toughest one here because there's like big differences between the other ones, but in terms of like a big year, a down year. All right, Casey, to you. Last question. Ezekiel Elliott had 28 total rushing touchdowns in the last 3 seasons. For the victory lap sweep, did Austin Eckler have more or less?
Oof. Eckler is a freak of nature because I know he's another guy. Obviously, he has plenty of receiving touchdowns like some of the other guys Daps just listed off. But he's had so many touchdowns too, like an incredible amount of touchdowns to where his rushing still might outpace someone. What's the number I'm supposed to remember?
28. 28 is the number that Ezekiel Elliott has.
28 is tough. Man. This one feels like the hardest one so far that I've been asked. I'm going to say Austin Eckler just got it done too effectively, and he's over that. He's just had too many touchdowns. I'm going to hope that there were more rushing than receiving.
Ezekiel has 28 total rushing touchdowns in the last 3 seasons. Casey says Austin Eckler has more. Austin Eckler has 26 total rushing touchdowns in the last 3 seasons. He did have, I think, a relatively significant injury in one of those 3 seasons. It's definitely down compared to the other 2. We have so Casey wins 3-2, but we do have a double tiebreaker. I don't know how we want to treat that, if we want to give them 1 point each here. But if you guys have I should have told you before, Casey, because I know you got to scrounge something up here. If you guys have something to write on, the question for the double tiebreaker, for the first tiebreaker, first half of it, and you guys can just write both, is who has the most rushing touchdowns? There are a few notable names I left out of the game that could be the leader in this category. Who has the most rushing touchdowns in the last 3 years, and how many does that person have? That's the double. That's both halves of the double tiebreaker. Daps would have to get both halves to win if we count them both as 1 point. Casey, you got something? Did you find something to write with, and you're just thinking now?
I'm down 3. I'm down 3-2.
You're down 3-2. So you'd have to win both halves of it to win outright. But you could tie if you guys both got one half of it.
And this is most rushing touchdowns.
Most total rushing touchdowns in the last 3 seasons. And what is the number? And just to be clear, I will asterisk this and say I'm 99.9% sure of this, because I basically just checked through a whole bunch of the top guys. This isn't a stat you can just look up, but I checked through a whole bunch of the top guys, and I'm 99.9% sure that there is one outright winner here. There's a few very notable names I left out of the game, though, so that this would be a little bit harder.
I think I got my guy.
You think you got your guy? Do you have the number as well?
Yeah.
Okay. Casey, how about you? How you feeling over there?
I got something.
You got something? I got something written down. All right, I'm going to count to 3. Show what you guys got. 1, 2, 3. Show it to me. All right. Casey says Derrick Henry at 42. Daps, I can't quite read yours. It says Derrick Henry at 36. So you guys both said Derrick Henry, which means best case scenario, Daps can tie here. You both got that wrong. It was not Derrick Henry. It was Josh Jacobs.
Ooh.
You guys both guessed the number, and I'll give a point to the person who got the number closer. Actually, that makes it less fun because Daps got the number closer. It was 35. So that would mean you tied. I don't really love a tie, but
that was supposed to be a tiebreaker, though, right? We weren't tied going in.
You can't tie with the tie. Yeah, so Daps would have to
give
both
win, the
parts.
series is tied, which is, I mean, story
arc.
Yeah,
that's better. Yeah. So I think that's a tiebreaker. If Daps would have got both parts, then I say Daps passes. But you guys both got the first half wrong. I would have guessed Derrick Henry too, to be honest. He's a touch monster. So like if we were doing rushing attempts, he would be so far ahead of everybody. He just gets the ball a ton. But Jacobs is an incredibly efficient runner for 3 seasons in a row now, basically.
Yeah, that was an injury dodging game as much as anything. who's avoided injury as much as anyone basically and remained effective.
Yep.
And in the last 3 years, excluding this year, is a weird filter.
So I will. I'll give you kind of the top 3 here. You guys both got one of them. So Derrick Henry had 33 total. Another guy neither of you guys put here is Jonathan Taylor. He also had 33 in the last 3 years. And then Josh Jacobs at 35 in the last 3 years. And then the next person I could find was Nick Chubb at 32. So Nick Chubb churning up that ground close to the end zone.
Not this year, but sure.
No, not anymore. This game's been dedicated to Nick Chubb in loving memory.
Way to turn it around. Save the show.
Yeah. Well, that was it. So I think we're tied 2-2 on Heat Check now, through like week 13 now? Week 13, week 14, week 13, something like that. So it's going to be a good one. It's going to come down to it. That has been Overtime Operators. That's the show where we talk about betting, fantasy, all ways to make money in sports. I've been John at JohnJ3X on all the socials. Daps has been at Daps Sports on all the socials, and he still is at Daps Sports on all the socials. Definitely check them out on TikTok and tap into their lives, and check out Casey at Niners Fan Man on YouTube, and we'll see you guys next time.